Hi there, welcome back to Scotland's Garden Scheme and Behind the Garden Gate. Today we're at the beautiful Camptoun House in East Lothian, and we have the wonderful Shane Corstorphine here to tell us about his amazing walled garden and various other areas of this garden. Shane.
Hi, very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. How did you come to be a gardener for all of this?
Well, it's been quite a journey, I suppose, to get to this stage. I was lucky. I grew up with a really nice garden. My parents, I guess, were both gardeners of different styles. My mum was definitely the sort of plants woman, and dad was the grafter, I guess. And I would get dragged out at weekends to do probably more of the sort of lawn cutting and grafting stuff. But when I was really young, I was given a small area, like a tiny area, probably a metre squared, and I had some pansies and stuff in it. So, and occasionally Mum would drag me out and show me how to plant things. So I had a degree of confidence, but I wasn't really pushed. Didn't do a huge amount with it, which was perfect, because I then went to London and ended up, my first house had a small garden, and of course real responsibility kicks in when no one else is going to do it if you don't. So suddenly I had a bit of a panic, and I realised I actually needed to learn how to do this. And so that's when I started. I had a small garden in the middle of London, and I knew that I could call my parents if I got stuck, and they could give me some advice on what might work and what wouldn't. So I think it's a confidence thing initially, and just I was really lucky to have a bit of confidence going into it. And that then started a love of gardening, and then 25 years later or something, here we are at Camptoun.
It is definitely a little bit different from small garden to wall garden.
That's correct, yeah.
I mean, my mother and father, it was a very similar thing. My dad was a grafter, my mum chose the plants. And I just remember the conflicts.
Yeah.
But tell me about the plants that you have here and why you've chosen them.
Yeah, so here in the walled garden, we've got it's almost split into two halves, the walled garden. We're more formal here up towards the top of the house, so we've got kind of, I guess, more traditional perennial borders. There's quite a traditional rose bed as well, and then it kind of feeds down to the kind of more gravelled area, which is slightly wilder but much lower maintenance. And really, I think we've got to be realistic about maintenance with gardens. It's one thing to create a stunning garden. The second thing is it can go from being therapeutic to the complete opposite quite quickly if you let it overwhelm you and you overdo it. So I realised my kind of limitations, and I've got some people who come part-time to help me who are amazing, much better than me, but we can really stay on top of this and keep this really neat. And then the kind of gravel planting with the lavenders and the rosemaries, and then the big Nepeta circle growing up with the rose standards is really pretty low maintenance. So it's a combination of what do you love, what will work, and what's going to work for your ability to maintain. I think those three things kind of probably have shaped this garden quite a lot.
And you mentioned to me when you were first putting in the perennials, so obviously perennials, they take time to bulk up.
Yeah.
And they take time just to reach that photographic quality that everybody identifies these with. What do you do before that stage?
So that's a really interesting one. So I actually, in this walled garden, I was very lucky that the guy we've lived here for 6 years, but we bought the house from some keen gardeners, and certainly this part they'd put a huge amount of love into. So I had some pretty established plants. In time, we've moved things, we've created new beds, and in those I'll blend in a series of annuals normally in and amongst to kind of pack out and give me something for that year, and therefore force me to be more patient, knowing that it's going to take really 3 years before actually I've got any real shape to my perennials.
Yeah.
And at 5 years, then they'll be really where I want them. I will plant quite tightly, knowing I'm probably then going to have to move later on, but I'd sort of rather go for that than have a ton of bare soil, which isn't great from a fungal point of view as well, but from a weeding point of view, it's actually easier to pack a bit tighter, thin out later, and with a garden like this, I can always divide and find somewhere else to put those plants, to be honest.
What are your go-to annuals?
So go-to annuals, Cosmos is an out winner, and I use it for pots and also. So I'll do tulips, and then they'll come out, and then we'll go Cosmos generally for my pots because I love it. Another one is a Rebecca Toto. It's a dwarf Rebecca, really easy to go from seed. Comes a bit late, comes a bit later, but that's perfect. So I use that a lot, and then we have biannuals in terms of you'll sort of see dotted around digitalis as well. So we'll do those from seed, but they sort of tend to be where I've ended up as my kind of reliable. There's obviously lots of bits and pieces that appear, but they're the reliable ones.
Well, even as we speak, obviously we're a little bit behind because it's strangely a colder year this year, but it's still looking really wonderful just to look at, because you've got your hostas here for your variegated foliage, and it just seems to be working, and I can't wait to see the Nepeta ring.
Yes, yeah.
When it comes out, that is a stunning idea.
Well, you're very kind. It's such a simple thing, but and it was forced upon us actually because we needed to simplify that part of the garden. So I had to come up with something that I knew was easy. We already had its Winchester Cathedral standards, and we had it in a different format, 6 of them. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I've got a bunch of standards. I need something really low maintenance. And it has to be big because it's far from the house, but I want to be able to see it. So a giant circle packed with Nepeta as underplanting for these white Winchester Cathedral roses has turned out to be a real success and something I'm super proud of.
So Shane, we're in the kitchen garden. Why did you want to start this?
Kitchen garden for me is, I think, it's one of the most important bits of any garden, and that it hits the 3 areas that I think gardening really can help with. So as with all gardening, great to have your hands in the soil and have purpose, and the mental health side of stuff, which is great here. I think obviously then there's the physical health side, which is you're eating, crops that and food that you know hasn't been sprayed. You know exactly what's gone into it. You know where it's come from, and on that side, super important. And then the last bit is on kind of environmental point of view. The amount of packaging that you now see in anything you get from a supermarket, I do find saddens me. It's unnecessary, and I will still buy stuff from supermarkets because I can't do 12 months a year here. But I can significantly reduce the produce we have to buy for at least 4 to 6 or 6, even 6 to 8 months a year with a polytunnel, which I love. So those 3 things, I think you can really impact with even the smallest of kitchen gardens, which is fab.
And does the family enjoy it?
That's mixed. So my wife loves it in terms of the salads we make are fantastic. We've got oodles of, we do sort of peas in the polytunnel for garnishes, various different lettuces, and we now know which ones we like and which ones we don't like. So everyone will go for Little Gem, but actually we just don't eat a lot of Little Gem, whereas we'll eat tons of all year round. We'll eat tons of kind of oak leaf lettuces, rocket. We've now got radishes growing, which are amazing. So I think from a kind of consuming point of view, that works really well. My kids aren't so big on that side of stuff, but my son will eat loads of eggs from the chickens, so that's quite good. I do drag them out to, we do early in the season, we have a potato growing competition with my 2 kids in the polytunnel in containers, and last year I got thumped by them. One biggest yield and the other one biggest potato, and I got neither out of there was 2 awards, 3 of us, and I came last in both. So I think we have a bit of fun with it. My son helped me build a wormery recently as well, which is a lockdown project. It was great. Yeah. So I try and, in the same way I was sort of slowly introduced to it by my parents, and therefore I when the time came for me to garden, I kind of had a rough idea. I had enough confidence to kind of get stuck in, I try and keep them out here doing bits and pieces from time to time. But to actually, this is a functional space, and you have to be quite efficient.
Yeah.
And kids and efficiency don't go hand in hand. So it tends to be the sort of volume stuff is done by me, or actually the wonderful guys that help me here.
Yep. Okay, so here we are at the orchard in Camptoun House. Shane, why did you want to reinstate this?
So when we first moved into Camptoun House, maybe 5 years ago, 2015, they'd done a wonderful job with the rest of the garden, but understandably this was a bit far away from the house and it had become overgrown. But I could tell immediately this could become a magical space. So we took it right back to nothing. We then started to plant some wildflowers, some grass in, and of course I wanted a place for my bees, and this is an amazing place to have my bees. It was clearly, I could tell it had been structured originally as 3 rows of 5 trees, so 15 orchard trees, so it's not a big orchard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was enough to make it a magical space. And that was really exciting for us, so we replanted a bunch of trees. And it was a nice place, it's a family place, so we didn't go heritage.
Yeah.
We put in trees that mattered to us, and we make cider here, which is lovely, which we really enjoy. So I put in some good cider apples. So we have Beauty of Bath, which is a lovely tree, and we have Cox as well, which is a wonderful tree, works very well in Scotland. And then my wife is called Katie, so what a wonderful chance to put in some Katie apple trees, and we've got a couple of those too. So we've recreated the kind of 5x3 space, and we love it now.
And you mentioned the bees. Why and how did you get into that?
So I got into the bees. I was really lucky. It was always something that interested me. And in East Lothian here, there is the East Lothian Beekeepers Association, or ELBCA. Mm-hmm. And they're wonderfully good at introducing new beekeepers and training. And so a few years ago, I went along, I did the training course, and they helped sort of softly introduce me to beekeeping. But the real thing which I didn't appreciate and I didn't expect with having bees is I'm far more at peace with weeds. So before I used to be a bit neurotic as a gardener. I needed everything out, I needed to try and control it. And now I see something and I think, that's wonderful for my bees. Or that's great, and I'm at peace with it. And the other really interesting thing that having bees does is it doesn't make you think about having a bee-friendly garden from time to time. You really concentrate on, from January to December, how am I providing food for my bees? And it really makes you think creatively about what you can plant and when to provide food all year round for bees, which is wonderful.
That's fantastic. And do you find it also adds to the therapeutic nature of your gardening?
I really do. One is the calmness around about the whole weed thing, but two is I'll often sit on the bench back there and I'll watch my bees working exceptionally hard while I'm not, and just be at peace and enjoy it and watch nature doing its thing, rather than sometimes trying to fight nature as gardeners can do. Mm-hmm. I'll sit back and I'll enjoy watching what's happening. So it's wonderfully therapeutic and calming, which I love.
And I think that kind of goes perfectly into the charity that you're opening your garden for.
Growing at Gilmerton, that's the one.
Okay, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so pleased to be supporting the kind of Growing Matters charity, which is growing at Gilmerton. So for me, I got into gardening almost out of necessity. But what I didn't realise is it became very therapeutic for me. So I worked for a technology company called Skyscanner. Things went really fast and at times got incredibly stressful, and there was nothing like coming out to my garden that made me realise how therapeutic and important that was for my life. Mm-hmm. And then I went on this beekeeping course with East Lothian Beekeepers Association, which happened to be at Gilmerton. And that's where I discovered what they were doing there, which I just think is magical. And they were helping people who had been through trauma and stress much worse than I'd been through. and helping them get together from a community point of view, but also from a growing point of view. And I just thought it was magical the way they were changing people's lives and giving them confidence back. And I wanted to support that. So to be able to open my garden, to support a charity like that for something that had helped me and is now helping other people, was really important.
Fantastic. So that's us for Camptoun House. Shane, thank you so much for showing us around. The garden is beautiful, and I'm sure all your visitors will absolutely adore it.
I really hope so. We love it, and I hope other people enjoy it too. Thanks so much for coming to film us here. It's honestly a real pleasure, and I hope people love it when they come and see it.
Again, thank you so much.